You had a terrible day, the kind that starts badly and just keeps going. Someone said something that stayed with you. You came home carrying all of it, the weight of the whole day across your shoulders. And then you heard it. The scramble of paws, the thud against the door before you even had it fully open, the full-body, tail-whipping, completely uncontainable joy of a creature that had been waiting for hours for exactly one thing: you. And something shifted, not slowly, not after a few deep breaths, immediately, before you even put your bag down. And if you know that feeling, if you have ever had your entire nervous system rerouted by a dog who had not learned that some days are not worth celebrating, this video is for you. Here is something the research is very clear about. People who have deep bonds with dogs are not simply animal lovers. They are not naive or soft or avoiding human connection. In many cases, they have found the one relationship that modern psychology says most humans spend their entire lives searching for and never quite finding. The relationship where you are completely accepted as you are right now, on the worst version of your worst day. But, and this matters, not everyone who loves dogs deeply is loving them for the same reason, and understanding the reason says something important about you. By the end of this video, you are going to understand the neuroscience behind why a dog's presence does things to your brain and body that most human relationships take years to achieve. We are going to look at what your attachment to a dog actually reveals about your attachment style, the way your nervous system learned to give and receive love long before you were old enough to have a say in it. And we are going to spend some time on the group nobody talks about, the people who love dogs with a ferocity that surprises even themselves, the ones for whom "it's just a dog" is the most misunderstood sentence anyone has ever said to them.
You have probably done things because of your dog that you would never fully explain to another person. You have canceled plans. You have rearranged your entire day around a walk that could technically have been shorter. You have had full conversations, complete with questions and answers, with a creature that responded by blinking slowly and pressing its nose against your hand. And you did not feel foolish. You felt understood. Maybe you have caught yourself talking about your dog the way other people talk about their children, with that same particular blend of exhaustion and absolute devotion, the stories that go on longer than strictly necessary, the photos, the separate album just for the photos. Sound familiar? Good, because the psychology behind all of this is not sentimental, it is biological, and it goes deeper than most people realize. Let's start with the neuroscience, because this is where it stops being cute and starts being extraordinary. In 2015, a researcher named Miho Nagasawa and her team at Azabu University in Japan published a study that genuinely surprised the scientific community. They found that when a person and their dog make eye contact, just eye contact, nothing else, both the human and the dog experience a significant rise in oxytocin. Oxytocin is the chemical your brain releases during deep bonding moments, between parents and newborns, between people who are falling in love, between people who trust each other completely. It is sometimes called the bonding hormone, and it is being released in both directions between you and your dog simply by looking at each other. Not a similar mechanism, not an approximation, the same loop. The exact same neurochemical exchange that humans use to form their deepest bonds, being activated by a dog looking at you across a room. And here's what makes this even more significant. Nagasawa's team also found that wolves raised by humans do not do this. This gaze bonding response in dogs was not present in their wild ancestors. It evolved specifically over the 15,000 years that dogs and humans have lived together, a biological adaptation designed entirely around the human relationship. Your dog did not stumble into your life. 15,000 years of coevolution built them specifically to make you feel exactly the way they make you feel. But the oxytocin loop is only the beginning, because there's a second layer to why some people love dogs with a depth that genuinely surprises them.
And this one has nothing to do with the dog. It has everything to do with what happened long before the dog arrived. John Bowlby spent decades studying how humans learn to love and what happens when that learning gets complicated early on. He developed what we now call attachment theory. In plain English, the way you bonded with your caregivers as a very small child becomes the template your nervous system uses for every significant relationship you have for the rest of your life. If those early relationships were consistent, if the people around you showed up reliably, if love did not feel conditional or unpredictable, your nervous system learned to trust closeness. It learned that being loved was something that could last. But if those early relationships were inconsistent, if love came with conditions, or disappeared without warning, or asked you to be different from who you actually were, your nervous system learned something else. It learned that closeness comes with risk, that people leave, that love requires performance to be maintained. And then, the dog. The dog who greets you the same way you were having the best week of your life or the worst. The dog who doesn't need you to perform a version of yourself that feels acceptable. The dog who asks only that you be present and rewards presence with the kind of uncomplicated devotion most humans spend decades trying to find in each other. For someone's early attachment template was complicated. A dog is not just a pet, it's the first truly safe relationship their nervous system has ever known. And that brings us to the group that this video was really built for. The ones who hear, "It's just a dog," and feel something shift in their chest, not because they're dramatic, but because they know that sentence has never been true. Not for them.
Be honest for a second. Have you ever looked at your dog, really looked, and felt a wave of something that is almost embarrassing in its intensity? Not cute embarrassing. The kind where you thought, I would do anything for this animal. I would rearrange my entire life. I have rearranged my entire life. And maybe the thought that followed was, I don't know if I love people this easily. That is not a flaw. That is information. Psychologist Sue Johnson, who developed emotionally focused therapy, one of the most effective approaches to healing relationship patterns, has written about how people with anxious or avoidant attachment histories often find their deepest emotional safety in relationships with a vulnerability is not symmetrical, where you can love fully without the same risk of rejection. A dog is the perfect asymmetric bond. You give everything, and what comes back is unconditional, every time, without exception, without a bad day affecting the quality of the return. For people who learned early that love could be withdrawn, a dog is not just comforting. A dog is proof that unconditional love is real, that it exists, that they deserve it. You see this everywhere in culture once you know what to look for. Think about every movie where the dog is the emotional anchor of the story, not because the filmmaker ran out of ideas, but because audiences respond to it with a consistency that no other relationship achieves. Think about the film Hachi, based on the true story of a dog in Japan who waited at the train station every day for 9 years after his owner died. Never told, never explained, just waiting. The film has a near-perfect audience rating across every age group, every country, every demographic that has ever watched it. Not because it is sentimental, because it shows us the one thing human relationships rarely survive: unconditional loyalty that does not require the other person to still be present. We do not cry at that film because it is sad about a dog. We cry because it shows us what love looks like when it has no conditions at all. And we recognize it because most of us have only ever felt it from one direction. So, what do you do with all of this? I'm not going to tell you your love for your dog means something is broken in your human relationships. I'm not going to suggest that dogs are a substitute for anything, because the research is clear that they are not a substitute for anything. They are their own category entirely. What I am going to ask is one question, just one. What does your dog love you, tell you about the way you deserve to be loved by everyone else? Because your dog has never once made you earn it. Your dog has never made your worth contingent on your performance, your appearance, your usefulness, or whether you're having a good day.
And if you have accepted that from a dog, if you've let yourself be loved that completely by a creature that requires nothing back but your presence, then you already know what you're capable of receiving. The question is whether you're holding the humans in your life to the same standard, not the perfect standard, just the honest one. Remember the beginning of this video? The terrible day, the weight across the shoulders, the door opening to a creature that had been waiting hours for nothing except you. What happened in that moment was not sentiment, it was 15,000 years of coevolution. It was oxytocin running in both directions. It was a nervous system finally landing in the one place it had always known it could come home to. People who love dogs deeply are not avoiding the world. They are not substituting animals for humans. They have simply found the most uncomplicated teacher of what love is supposed to feel like, and they have had the wisdom to let themselves be taught. If your dog just walked into the room while you were watching this, you already know the feeling we've been describing. Give them the look. Let the oxytocin run. They earned it. And if something in this video landed somewhere specific, leave a comment. Tell me about the day your dog rerouted your entire nervous system. One story, as short or as long as it needs to be. Someone else will read it and feel less alone in how much they love their animal. The next video on this channel goes somewhere that might surprise you. It's about the psychology of people who find it easier to be kind to strangers than to themselves. Same quiet pattern, different face, and somehow even more recognizable. Subscribe so it finds you. Your dog would want you to.